أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا والطبيب ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين المكرمين الخيرين الفاضلين السيدين الصادقين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين صلوات على محمد وآل محمد مؤمنين مؤمنات Brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today, before we begin our new topic, I wanted to go through the leftover questions from last night. Normally I wait till the end and these questions keep piling up. So I wanted to go through a few of these, inshallah, and then we can start the new topic. The first question from last night was, why should we base our actions for the sake of Allah? So again, these are the type of questions that are better left for the Saturday session, inshallah. If I can give a shorter answer, it would be, if all of our existence, if everything about us is in Allah's hands, our whole entire existence comes from Him. Everything we do, we have two choices. Any thought I have, any action, any word I say, anything, I can either say that it's for myself. Why is it for myself? Because I want it to be, right? It makes it egotistical. Or I can say, the one who gave me this tongue, the one who gave me this body, the one who gave me this intellect, the one who gave me this existence, I should devote every single thought and action and word to Him, to Allah, the Creator. So this is one way of thinking about for the sake of Allah. Now, I know sometimes we hear, fi sabilillah, qurbatan illallah, and these concepts are kind of just glossed over really quickly, right? Like, you want to know deeply, what does this mean? And I understand that. So the way I just explained it is that since He is the source of everything, it's only right that you do everything for Him. In the same way that if you were to ever get a gift from somebody, right? There's a certain way you want to thank them, right? Somebody gives you a gift, it's only polite, the right thing to do is to thank them. Now, how do you thank them? You thank them the way that they want to be thanked, not the way that you want to thank them. Sometimes we have this discussion among these kind of new age, progressive, liberal Muslims who say, I don't need to pray 5 times a day, I can thank God the way that I feel like thanking God. Say, okay, now just put yourself in another position. Let's say you're having, let's say, a wedding registry or a gift registry for your child for their birthday party, right? So what do you do on the registry? You have a list of things that you need or you want them, you like or your child likes. That's what you put it there for. So let's say you have a bunch of different toys and things like that. Somebody comes in and they get a toy, but it's not on the list, right? So what do? Do you say thank you? You say, okay, listen, we had a registry set up for you. I gave you a list to pick from. Did you know that it was there? Yeah, I knew it was there, but I decided to get a gift that I like for you. I thought this would be better for you. Say, okay. If I'm picking, I think I know my child better than you do. This is nice that you went out of your way and got a gift, but it was a bit arrogant for you to think that you know better. In the same way, we get arrogant when we think sometimes we know better than God. Oh, I can speak to God however I want. No, God has kind of set down a gift registry. He said, you want to thank me? Okay, I'll give you this system called Sharia. This is what you act upon. I'll give you a system of akhlaq. This is how you change your life. And I'll give you a idea of khums. Sometimes people, their pockets, their hands get a little itchy, right? They don't want to They don't want to pay up. Okay, thank you. Say, no, listen, I need $20 up from that 80, from that 100, and if you do that, then I'll give you $100 later. I mean, that's basically what God's saying here. He's giving us existence, He's giving us money, He's giving us all of our risk and everything we need. He's saying, listen, I need you to give some of it back and give it to those less fortunate, and then we get greedy and say, well, no, maybe it's mine, maybe I need it more. So this is what an idea of fi sabilillah and for the sake of Allah means. Do our past sins prevent us from gaining good in the future? What can we do about this? Are du'as enough? Are they sufficient? How do we know Allah has forgiven us? This is a really, really deep question. Again, we can try to answer this Saturday. In a short word, do our past sins prevent us from gaining good in the future? Every single thing that we do has an effect, as we mentioned yesterday. Everything is bound by cause and effect. Even something that your father and mother did, that has an effect on how we are right now. Now, it's not that you're going to get punished for it. This is different than, you're not going to go to hell because your parents did something, right? We don't have that belief of sins of the father. We don't have that idea. But, in the same way, in the medical side of things, if, let's say, a woman is pregnant with a child, and she decides to drink or smoke, isn't the fetus going to be affected by that? The fetus didn't ask for this kind of, these problems that they might have. It was the mother's choice. Or let's say the father did something that affected. So sometimes the physical things you do have an effect on your children, your spiritual things have an effect as well. And this can go tracing back as far as you want. Again, I advised you guys yesterday, if you want to learn more, look at the story of Nabi Khidr alayhi salam. Especially the third part, when he saves and he rebuilds that wall, right, for the orphans, and they found that hidden treasure under that was for them. Right? And I don't need to go into the details, you guys know the story. The ulama say that that's because the ancestors of those children, I think maybe 700 or more years ago, 700 generations or more ago, they did some good, and because of that, Nabi Khidr was assigned to build that wall for them so they can get their rizq. All the actions in the past have effects. Again, I reiterate, it doesn't mean that if an ancestor or a grandparent or a father or mother does something, you get punished for it. No. But it will have a spiritual effect on us. Will it prevent us from gaining good in the future? You still have free will. You still have a choice to make in the matter. Everything's in your hands. Sometimes we suffer for the wrongs of others. Why? I just said it, free will. This is the price to pay. If you want to reach perfection, you have to get it through free will. Right? We said the other day, if you're going to take a test, if somebody wants to test your knowledge, and they're going to ask you questions, and it's multiple choice, they have to put one right answer and a few wrong answers. So they have to know, do you actually know the right answer or not? Or are you just going to play guessing games? Right? So, with this system of free will, we have the choice of doing right and wrong. So that might mean someone has the choice, they have the ability to harm other people, to murder other people, to steal from other people. Because that's the part of free will. Now, from our side, for us who are being affected by it, we suffer in one sense. Yes, obviously physically, if somebody steals from us, they've wronged us. If they harm us physically, yes, they've oppressed us. But, like we said yesterday, how do you understand that in terms of your relationship with God? Do you say that I'm suffering because of God? This person affected me, the person wronged me, he oppressed me, and now it's God to blame? Or do you say, no, God has allowed this to happen so that I can learn a lesson? Like we said yesterday, maybe, just maybe, this is payback for some sin that you did. Maybe God's trying to prevent you from doing a future sin, and He's trying to make sure that you go into the next realm before death, before barzakh, and before the day of judgment. You go there with a clean slate so you don't end up in hellfire. You mentioned halal and haram music. Can you please help us distinguish? It's unrelated, but I'll mention it quickly. The maraji are they differ a bit on the criteria to distinguish between halal and haram music. Basically, it's this. If a song is suitable for a haram gathering, or if the song itself has some haram content. Now, what's going to happen here is that every individual has to kind of decide, right? So let's say there's a certain song you know. So there's kind of obvious examples. If they're talking about haram things in the song, no, you don't have to play games here. That's probably not a song you're going to be allowed to listen to. Now, what you understand about haram gathering, right? This is you. You as a person who's following your marja, you have to decide, okay, my marja said I can't listen to a song if this song is normally played for a haram place, right? So an easy example is club music, right? Music that is suitable and is specifically designed to play in a club would be haram. Now, who gets to decide that? Nobody else in the community, only that individual. So it's possible that two people in the community, one guy's listening to the song and one person's not. Let me give an example. So classical music, right? Beethoven, Mozart, etc., that kind of stuff. So one person might say, listen, I hear classical music, I don't associate it with a haram gathering, so therefore they can listen to it. They looked at the criteria of their marja, they applied it, they said there's no haram words, there's no haram message, and it's not suitable for a haram gathering, so I can listen to it. Someone else, they might have a different understanding about classical music, right? They might say, listen, you know all those little corny Jane Austen movies and all that other stuff? Well, people are, well, let's be honest, it's white people dancing around, slow dancing with like wine and everything, right? They're playing this classical music. So for me, that's a haram gathering. That's where they play the stuff. So it's haram for me. Two people, same song. One says halal, one says haram. And that's fine. We have to remember that when a marja gives a ruling, they're giving you the boundaries. You have to do the application yourself. They're not going to tell you where it applies. So if they say these are the criteria for determining whether something's halal or haram music, now you as the individual, as the muqallid, as the mukallaf, you got to go apply it. The same thing, for example, applies for smoking. Right? The ruling is very simple. Will it lead to extreme, immediate bodily harm and damage? If you say yes, you can't smoke. If you say no, meaning you've done your research and your research says no, then you can smoke, right? Obviously, I'm not encouraging smoking, nor am I saying that you should do it. I'm not saying anything about smoking at all. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For tomorrow, since it's wafat, and also for our final discussion, which will be next Wednesday, inshallah, which will be the wiladat of the second imam, there won't be any Q&As there, right? So for tomorrow night, the Slido won't be active, and for Wednesday night, it won't be active. So the last night will be Tuesday night, inshallah. So now we'll move on to today's discussion. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So where did we end up yesterday? We finished off our discussion on justice. First, we proved that God exists, right? Different proofs we used. We used rational, logical proofs. Then we said, okay, we know that there's some power, authority, this pure existence that caused everything. Okay, now what do we do with that? We said, okay, is this creator, is this God thing, is he just or not? So we went through a few proofs and ideas and we said, yes, God does not do injustice based on the qualities that we understand from him. For example, selfishness, jealousy, inability, weakness, all these ideas don't apply to God. And these are the reasons that people oppress, right? So those don't apply to God, so he does not oppress. Then we said, okay, if God's just, why do we see bad things happening? To reiterate, we gave different reasons. One, we think they're bad because of our limited knowledge. You don't get the whole picture, it'll seem bad to you, when in the whole grand scheme of things, it's actually good for us. The other thing we mentioned is sometimes God is acting out of his mercy. We're looking for justice, but it's actually mercy that's there. We gave the story of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, right? And the clay pot that was broken. Then we said, these things that take place in our life, for us who are trying to be mu'min, we're trying to be a believer, you're trying to get better, you're trying to improve your life, we're still sinning. We're trying to stop, but we got sins. You got to get paid back someplace. Either you get paid back in hellfire, or in barzakh, or in the grave, or through the pangs and that struggle of death and questioning, or in the dunya. So we said, obviously, any person would want a lighter sentencing over here than taking, right, that heat and burning on the Day of Judgment. So this is why we see that. So now where do we go from there? So we got this God, created us, pure existence, just. and tries to do what's good for us. Okay. So now what do we do? Okay, so now what's my relationship with this God? Does He want me to do anything while I'm on this earth? Do I have any responsibilities? Right? Should I just kind of vaguely say thank you to Him and that's it, live my life however I want? Or did He send down specific information, a specific program for me so I can figure out what to do in my life? One of the common misconceptions that we have is God made us and then He left us alone. Right? He created us, He's just and all that. Like He gave us general points, He gave us a brain, so now we can figure out things as we go along. We don't need anybody else, and we don't need anything else. Nothing divine, we don't need books, we don't need religion, we don't need organized anything. We got a brain, we can figure out what to do. Let's see if that's going to work out. If you were to get a gift, like a proper gift, right? Like an example, right? So when I was younger, if I were to ever get, let's say, a radio remote controlled car, which I did get for one of my birthdays, right? So obviously, I'm excited, I'm ecstatic, I like cars, right? So I take it, I rip it open, take out the remote control, take out the car, put it down, I'm trying to mess with it, it's not working. Why not? Obviously, you flip around the box and you see those 3 deadly words, batteries not included. So you're like, thanks a lot for that. Why'd you give me an incomplete gift, right? Even when somebody does something nice for us, if they don't kind of fill in all the blanks, we get a little upset, right? Imagine if all this food was out there, but there were no plates, no forks, no spoons, no napkins. This Jamaat would go nuts, right? You guys would riot inside, probably, right? If you were expecting somebody to be purely loving, purely just, you would expect them to get them, give you everything. If you're going to get me a radio remote control car, you should give me the batteries too so I can play with it right away. Right? Don't make me go run out and go get batteries. Or imagine if somebody got you like a PS4, but no games and no controller. Right? So now you got to go run out and do extra work. Or if you want to flip it and make it even worse, somebody gives you just a controller, but no game and no system. Assuming you don't have the system or the game, but nobody really has that anymore, right? So now some people say, okay, God gave us everything, He gave us the intellect, that's enough. Well, is that enough to play the game of life? Is that enough for what we need here? Let's ask a few questions and see. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. People say, listen, you don't need religion. I know what's good, I know what's bad. General people, they know what's right and wrong. You know what's moral, it's obvious. Just be a good human being, that's enough. Don't murder, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat. What is this other stuff? What's the point of it? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. Let's just say we throw religion aside right now, right? So we have God, we have a just God, and we assume, okay, He gave us brains, we'll figure the rest of the stuff out. Okay, God, no problem. So now let's just take all of us sitting right here, right? So we've cut religion out of the picture. Now we're trying to live together in harmony, in peace, ideally. So now let's say somebody from the community decides to steal, or cheat, or mess with somebody else. Somebody goes outside and punches somebody in the face. So now we all grab that guy and take him and say, okay, so now we got to punch the individual. So one guy gets up and says, okay, so the person who got punched, you should be able to punch him in the face right back. Say, well, that's not really fair, that's not just. Why don't we just maybe, put him in, I don't know what you'd say, let's just hide him in the ghusl khana for a couple hours, turn the lights off, lock him in there, right? Then maybe he'll learn his lesson, then we can take him out. Somebody else will say, no, that's torture, you can't do something like that. Maybe what we should do is, next time he comes to the center, he's not allowed food or drink, right? He has to come and he's got to bring his own stuff, even if there's food provided. Somebody else will come and say, man, maybe we should just kill the guy, right? Because who knows, he could punch somebody else again tomorrow. Let's kill him right now to prevent any future crimes. See, the problem here is this. Every single person will have their own idea of what is just, what is right. Everybody's going to have their own criteria. Why? Because there's no source. You have no barometer. You have no way to check of what's right and wrong except your own self, your own brain, your own intellect. But we know our brains, our intellects, they differ. Some are smarter than others. Some have done more research than others. Some have a different idea. Some have different definitions. We have different understandings of life. You guys have seen it yourself. Even in the smallest issues in the Jama'at, people don't agree. I mean, I gave the example of somebody punching somebody in the face. We can talk about something very simple, like, which apparently they talked about last time. Which light should be kept on during a majlis? Somebody will say it's too bright. Someone will say it's too dark. You know, what are you going to do? If we're going to have all this difference of opinion, then how are we going to decide how to go forward? Will you say democracy? Okay, but if you say that, that's still a way that you've made up on your own. So let's just say we have 100 people here, and somehow 51 of them agree. So 51 say, okay, if we'll say we'll turn all the lights on. But 49 people, right, they say no, we're going to keep the chandelier off, for example, right? We don't want those lights on. Are those 49 people being oppressed? Technically they are, right? They had a wish, they had a desire, they used their intellect, made a decision, and now they don't get to get their way. Now what if those 49 people in the Jamaat decided to cause a riot and knock out the other 51 people? Do they have the right to do so? They can say, well, no, might makes right. We can beat up 2 of those guys, then we'll have the majority, for example, right? Before the election happens, we'll knock somebody out so that conveniently he won't show up to the next vote at the Jamaat. But the whole point here is this, which I think you understand. Everybody's going to have their own idea. If you want to live by your intellect and your mind, how are you going to come to a consensus? How would you be able to live in a society without oppressing anybody? Unless you have a source, there's no way to do so. Allah alludes to this in the Quran, in chapter 10, verse 36, in the Surah Yunus. He says, وَمَا أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ وَمَا يَتَّبِعُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ إِلَّا ظَنَّ. Most people, they follow their dhann, they follow their conjecture, they follow assumptions and presumptions. Whatever they got in their brain, they just follow that. They don't care about real knowledge. Whatever comes to their mind, they just want to follow that. Dhann, approximation. إِنَّ ظَنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. Dhann, meaning guesswork, estimation, approximation, presumptions and assumptions, will never, ever, ever substitute truth and haqq. Ever. Whatever you think you know about truth will never be truth. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَفْعَلُونَ. Don't play games because Allah knows exactly what you're doing. You think you're being intellectual, you think you're being rational, you think you're being logical, you think you're being fair and progressive, or you're sticking to tradition, whatever way you want to phrase it. Allah knows exactly what you're doing. He knows the way you're phrasing your thoughts. He knows that deep down, and you know this too, if you're being honest with yourself. I'm making decisions because I like it, because I want it. And you don't have the patience to do the real research. You don't have the patience and the humility to say that maybe there's a source of knowledge that I should be going towards. And this is why Allah says, since I created you, since I am just, I'll send down hidayat for you too. I'll tell you how you need to live your life. He says in another verse of Quran, Inna alayna lal huda. Hidayat, guidance, I'll take care of that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So the proof, the rational proof, the logical proof that our minds, our intellects are not enough to know what to do in this life is the fact that we disagree on just about everything. If we were all on the same page, then we'd be okay, and then we could run a healthy, safe, civil society. But we can't do that. Therefore, God has given us information from His realm. He sent down specific individuals with His message saying, I know you guys won't agree, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to keep sending down individuals who will tell you exactly what you need to do so that you can reach your goals. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, how are you going to tell individuals apart? If somebody, for example, were to walk in this room right now, right, let's say dressed like, let's say with a turban, with an amama, they have an abba, they have the traditional clothing, they walk in, let's say they grab the mic and they say, I'm Imam Mahdi, for example. I'm your Imam, you have to obey me and follow me. How would you test him? How would you know that he's actually the Imam? Would you ask him fiqh masail? Is that what you do? Any person who studied properly would know their fiqh masail. Okay, that's not going to work. Would you test him on his Arabic? Okay, many people know Arabic in and out. That's not going to work. How exactly would you know the Imam of your time? Have you ever thought about this question? Sometimes the way that we understand the Imam of the time and his reappearance and all this, everybody's looking for the signs, right? What are the signs that we are looking for the Imam to come back? Right? You know, they have these hadith, for example, that the sky is going to turn purple, or the sun will rise from the west and set in the east, and these kind of things. So people expect, I'm going to look for those signs, and then I'll know that now the Imam's coming. Okay, but let's say all those signs, for example, take place. All that happens. And then 100 people get up and all claim that they're Imam. What are you going to do now? Ask yourself that individually. How can you tell who's the Imam and who's not? Do you know how many people have been tricked throughout history? Constantly. Even during the time of the Imams, people came and said, I'm the rightful Imam. Do you know how many sects we've had within the Shia faith? Even the closest companions of our Imams, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, look at their history. Some, unfortunately, even some of their family members came out and said, I'm actually the Imam, not my brother or not my cousin. I'm the real Imam. And the companions got tricked and they got fooled. And then later on, they repented and came to the rightful Imam. But this is something that's been happening forever. Look at what happened after the occupation and invasion of Iraq. People came up and out and said, I'm the Mahdi, follow me. They took up arms and they went and attacked Masjid-Al-Kufa. This has been happening throughout history. Even right now in Iran, people are arrested constantly. Why? Because they come out and they claim that they're Imam at the time, and they start a little cult. How are you and I going to figure out who represents God and who doesn't? Okay, so the question about the Imam, that's a separate discussion and a separate lecture. We won't get to there. But just one point for you to think about, you can take home and discuss amongst yourselves. People have been asking this on Slido, and then we've been talking about it privately. If two scholars were to come right now, and both of them were to lead prayer, or even if one person comes, for example, and leads prayer, and you follow that person in prayer, do you know that that person, do you know if they have the rightful conditions to be able to lead namaz or not? Do you know how many communities I've been to and I've seen the person who goes forward, who leads prayer, does not meet the qualities and qualifications for an imam in Jamaat? If you can't identify who should be your imam in namaz, how are you going to figure out who's your imam in Islam? People clearly make, for example, mispronunciations and errors while pronouncing Arabic, and they're leading namaz. This is a problem. We don't know our rules. And sometimes we expect that when the imam comes, okay, when the imam comes, then I'll learn how to pray. Then I'll learn how to perform wudu. That's not the job of the imam. He's waiting for people who have this information already and who are ready to act and follow him and support him. Not for somebody like, oh Imam, it's glad you're here. How do you do ghusl again? I don't know what that is. That's not his mission. That's not his job. We have books translated. We have ulama coming who are ready to teach all these things. It's us that are kind of lagging behind. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Somebody comes from Allah. They claim that they're a representative of God. How are we going to be able to tell who's right and who's wrong? So Allah has set up a system. What is his system? What is his fail-safe device to prove if somebody comes and claims that he is a messenger, he is a prophet, that he represents God? How can we tell? And there's two qualities here. One is the power and ability to have miracle, a mu'jiza, and the other one is infallibility and isma. So inshallah, after the lecture tomorrow, meaning the day after tomorrow, we may, if there is enough feedback for it, if individuals are interested, we can go into that discussion. What exactly is a real mu'jiza? What's the difference between mu'jiza and, for example, a karama, like a specific spiritual power that sometimes urafa have, or black magic or white magic? How can you tell the difference? What is the difference? What about isma? Does that mean that the prophets and imams are robots? Are they angels? Why didn't we get isma? Some people ask the question, if God made me ma'soom, then I wouldn't have sinned too. He didn't give it to me, that's not fair. He made Imam Ali ma'soom, so he didn't sin. He gave me that. If he gave me that same power, then I wouldn't have sinned too. That's not fair. God, he discriminated basically. Na'udhu billah. So this is one possible way we can go with a topic, which would be for Saturday, inshallah. The other direction we can go is we can leave the misconceptions over here as far as nubuwah and messengership and mu'jiza and isma. We can leave that aside, and we can switch back to our original topic, which was about self-control, self-improvement. We can talk about tafakkur and reflection and how to really get in touch with your true identity. This was the other topic that we wanted to turn back to. So I'll wait for individuals to give their individual feedback. So we won't do a poll today. or maybe I'll ask them if they want to do the poll. But if you have a personal inclination or you have a specific topic you'd like in mind, let me know, inshallah. My choice will be, I'll prefer to go to the self-improvement and the self-awareness one. So that's what we'll be starting for tomorrow. Because of the wafat tomorrow night, we'll take a slight detour and we'll address a topic that's related to Bibi Khadija alayha salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So if the people who are in charge of Slido can put up the questions, then we can move on to that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Why did God create us humans if He knows the future and how we will act in it? Wouldn't He know whether or not we would be good or bad people? Why did He create us? So there's two questions here, right? And they're both very, very good questions. And I know I keep saying this and you guys are getting tired of it, but there's going to be a separate lecture for these points specifically. But I'll give short answers right now. So, why did God create us? Because we wanted to be created. Because it was possible for us to be created. Because we could be created. And whatever is possible, God does. Details, we'll go into another lecture. Now about this idea of God's knowledge, right? If He knows the future and how we will act, He knows whether we will be good or bad. In Irfan they say, right now, you and I are either in heaven or hell, we just don't know it right now. Because of our negligence, our heedlessness, our ghafla. Right? We've been so accustomed and used to living in the material world, we're ahl dunya, that we feel like we're living this life, time is passing, material things. But right now, you and I, we're either in heaven or hell. We just don't know it yet. When you die, that's when you wake up. Right? What does Imam say? Imam Ali alayhi salam? An-nas niyama. People are sleeping. When you die, that's when you wake up. That's when you really, really understand what the reality was. Or the other hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajal. Mutu qabla an tamutu. You've heard many times. Die before you die. What does die before you die mean? Die a spiritual death before you die your physical death. Break away from this dunya while you're still here so you can get in touch with your spiritual side. Then you'll know whether or not you're in heaven or hell right now. Then you'll be more in tune with yourself so you know which direction you can go and how to improve yourself. God does know where you are. Why? Because His knowledge is beyond time and space. God is not going through this life like we are, right? He's not watching us from a bird's eye view like the Truman Show, right? Just kind of watching as we do our actions. God is beyond time and space. For Him, there is no time and space. Only for us do we feel time and space. He already knows where we are. But for us, because of our limitations, our understanding of time, we have to live through it. But that's why they say, the Imams, the Prophets, some awliya or rafa, when they reach that level because of the self-discipline, the tazkiyatun nafs, they start breaking away from time. They start breaking away from space. They get a glimpse of the future, for example. They get to see into other realms, right? I'm making them sound like a Marvel character, right? Because I haven't talked about superheroes in a while, right? Okay, that's enough for that one. Even if God knows what you're going to do, does that affect your free will? Think about that. What was the point in Allah creating this world? Why does He care if we do well or not? It's related to the question above, so I'll reiterate the point. What was the point in Allah creating this world? Because it could be created. Or a deeper point is that it needed to be created for us. There's a very specific narration, many of you have probably read it, that this whole world, this whole universe, everything was created for the sake of the Ahlul-bayt. Have you ever seen this hadith, come across it before? Everything that exists has been made for the Ahlul-bayt. So people are thinking, oh, what do you mean it's made for the Ahlul-bayt? Like, what about us? Like, we're part of this life too. I mean, Ahlul-bayt, yeah, we love you, but we got a part of this life too. So what do you mean it's made just for them? Think about a farmer. A farmer has a goal in mind, right? Let's say your goal is you want some apples. You got your target in mind, right? You have this perfect, let's say, red delicious apple. That's what you want to grow. So now what do you have to do in order to get that apple? First you need seeds. You have to make sure your soil is there. It's taken care of properly so that you can actually, it's fertile. You have to make sure enough rainfall will come, sunlight is okay. You have to make sure bugs won't come. There won't be any infestation there. They won't eat up your crops, for example, and eat the roots of the tree. All of these things are set up. Why? Just so you can get that one red, delicious apple. For that perfect thing, all those other things are set in place. For that apple, you need the branches, you need the tree trunk, you need the seed, you need the soil, you need water, you need sunlight. All of these things are set up specifically for that perfect apple. So why are all these things set up? Oxygen and the circulatory system and good and evil, all these things are there for the sake of Ahlul-bayt, for that perfect creation that Allah wants us to achieve. I'll leave it there. Salatul Jama'ah is very recommended in Islam. Yep, that's true. But based on your lecture, you allude to not having the Salatul Jama'ah if there is no person who can lead the prayers. I hope that's not the impression I was giving. Well, let's see. What if no right person is there to lead prayers? Should we not pray Salatul Jama'ah? It's a good question, and I think it's a common question on people's minds. And I think we will end with that one because the second question of how do we prove that God is real to atheists, like I said, we've gone through that in a few lectures. If that material wasn't enough, we're going to have to talk about that either privately, at a private session, or we can do more detail Saturday, right? We can kind of have a back and forth if you want, inshallah. So about the Jama'at and congregational prayers. Everything in Islam has specific rules, right? For Salatul Jama'ah, you have to have at least one imam and one follower, right? That's an obvious thing, but sometimes people get it confused, that you have to have a specific number. For Jummah, it's 5, not for Jama'ah, right? That's a common misconception I think people have, yeah? For Jama'ah, a husband and wife can read together. And that's the ideal situation that our ulama of akhlaq and family planning, they advise. A husband and wife should always try to read Jama'ah together. Now, if the husband doesn't meet the qualifications and can't lead properly, well, he's got another problem on his hands, right? And we're going to have to discuss that separately. But there are qualifications to leading namaz. We mentioned one. You have to be able to pronounce things properly. So now let's just say there's a group of Muslims, a group of Shia. Let's just go with that one. That doesn't really matter. But let's just say a group of Shias in the masjid at some period of time. It's namaz time. There's no scholar that's there to lead namaz. Now what are you going to do? Okay, some random person says, well, I can lead. But this person, when they recite surahs, you know that they don't pronounce it properly. But again, this goes back to, do you know what proper Arabic is or not? If they're reciting their Fatiha, Sirat al-Lazina, Anamta alayhim ghayr al-maghzube, well, that's not going to fly. That's more of an Urdu Farsi pronunciation, right? That's not Arabic pronunciation. Inna a'atayna kal kawsar, that's not correct, right? It's kal kawfar. So, okay, if the Arabic pronunciation is not right, then you don't meet the first criteria to read the prayers. You have to follow the rules. So yes, Jama'at is great if the conditions are met, just like any other rule in Islam. Hajj is wonderful if you meet the criteria. Right? Some people, for example, they go out and they borrow money, or they for example, take out crazy amounts of loans so they can go on Hajj. But that's not the criteria. Allah says, listen, I'll invite you in a very specific manner. Hajj is wajib on you when I make it available to you, when you are financially and physically and socially capable of going. Right? You check the books of your marja, you'll see all the criteria are there. You don't have to go out of your way and destroy yourself financially, economically, physically, ruin your family's life to go on Hajj. That's not what Allah wants. It's for somebody who has istita'ah, ability, capability. Everything in Islam has these criteria. Allah doesn't want us to struggle and have hardship in following His rules. Sometimes we might make it too difficult, especially when it comes to eating, right? People go way above and beyond the rules for eating and start making everything haram. Listen, let me enjoy the gummies that I want to eat. Let me enjoy that pizza that I haven't seen the guy cut. Just let me enjoy these things, okay? If you want to do ihtiyat, that's between you and Allah, okay? But our marajih have given specific rules, and you can, in that sense, in certain places, ignorance does become bliss. Wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli bayt.